That's weird. I thought they were going to be here around midnight. Wait a minute. What was that? It's good to be back. What the hell was that? Oh, there you are. We're waiting all night. Oh, man. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're taking a look at a cult classic that's beloved by fans of the genre. So, lock your doors and sleep with one eye open, because tonight we're taking a look at Thief! It's been 10 years since we've last seen a Thief game, and boy, has it been too long. For fans of the genre, there have been some other games over the years that have fulfilled their need of sneaking, or their shiny object syndrome as they comb the world for loot. But nothing is quite like a Thief game. If you're not already aware, this Thief is a reboot of the series rather than a continuation of the story, which makes sense when you think about it, as 10 years is a long time. Even the fans of the original have probably forgotten the story by now, so it's a good idea to start from scratch. Eidos Montreal developed this game over the last several years, and it shows in some of the gameplay, as they also developed Deus Ex: Human Revolution. While the two games are very different, and two different development teams did work on these games, I can definitely see their flavor development throughout the new Thief as well. So, let's jump into the story. The game begins with Garrett and his unruly apprentice, Aaron, who thinks she's better than him in every way. They've been tasked with stealing the Primal Stone from Northcrest Manor. Along the way, Aaron's arrogance gets her caught up in an explosion from a magical ceremony gone wrong. Garrett, nearly losing his own life, ends up unconscious. Fast forward a year, and he's awoken as two men are carting him past the city watch into the city, as it's called. Things go wrong, and shortly thereafter, Garrett ends up back in a dark alley, bewildered and confused as to what happened. I really wanted to like the story in this reboot of Thief, but they did a lot of things wrong that really detracted from it. First off, the cutscenes were very bad. Oftentimes the audio would go out of sync during a cutscene, and you'd hear people talking when they weren't actually talking. There was a lot of problems where they were really up close into people's faces and you couldn't really see anything, and there was lots of shaky cam going on, which is always a bad sign in art direction. A lot of the story aspects are very predictable as well. Another issue is that the story simply doesn't start out strong. We have no idea who Erin is, and we've never spent any time with her before. So when she suddenly appears on screen, there's no connection. She talks about their history, but we've never experienced it. And when she gets caught in a magical explosion from the Primal Stone, I found myself unable to empathize, since in the 5 minutes we knew her, she was brash and annoying. As the story goes on, it becomes hard to stay immersed in it, or even care about it, as there's just no feeling in the plot. A lot of the storytelling is very disjointed, and they simply don't do a great job of explaining things. Even the end of the game feels unfinished. It's very obvious that they're setting things up for a Thief 2, but the problem is, there's nothing to compel me to want more of the story. It really felt like they did the cutscenes and dialogue first, and then built the rest of the game around them, which resulted in a lot of disjointed storytelling and odd transitions along the way. I have to give the game a point under Don't Play for the story. It's simply not very good. If you're hoping for a fantastic story, then you won't find it here. Now, the graphics, on the other hand, are something else entirely. The game is played entirely in first person, and boy is it a beautiful game. The lighting is some of the best I've ever seen in a video game, period, and the atmosphere is absolutely perfect for a Thief game. Animations look good, and for once you can actually see your feet in a first person game, which is a very welcome change. There's some Hollywood blockbuster moments, and while they don't really fit into a Thief game and have upset some hardcore fans of the series, they undeniably look good. Fire and sparks in the air all look real, water is fantastic looking, and all around I'm just very impressed. There's certainly some textures in places that aren't as high fidelity as they could have been, but they can get away with that a bit since the majority of the game is covered in shadow. You can certainly find some places that don't look good if you really look, but you'd really have to go out of your way to find the flaws here. For graphics, I give a resounding point under play. If you want a Thief game with a modern engine and improved graphics to match, then this is a ticket for you. So, here we are at the meat and potatoes, the gameplay. How does Thief stack up in this department? Overall, very well. The sword from the previous games is replaced by a blackjack to knock guards unconscious with from behind, or to beat in their faces in direct confrontation. It's a bit clunky to use for direct fighting, but I feel it was left that way on purpose since the goal of Thief is to sneak around rather than being a teleporting assassin of death like in Dishonored. Movement feels great as you crawl through the shadows of the city below, or run across the rooftops from above. There's a certain satisfaction to be found from extinguishing candles, grabbing a treasure trove of loot, dodging guards, and even security cameras if you have the bank DLC and so on. But there are some downsides too. First of all, the city is pretty narrow in places. Sometimes you can't go onto the rooftops to get to a destination. Other times you only have one path to get to somewhere. And many parts of the city have QTEs such as windows or narrow passages, which take the place of loading screens that you need to go through. Or other times you'll just have loading screens instead. I feel that this is the sacrifice they made for having the high quality graphics that they've included with the game. The game looks great, but they had to break it into sections instead of giving you one big open city, and the game does suffer a bit for it. By the end of the game, you'll be tired of mashing E to get through these places. Another annoying thing is that if you pry open a window, which also requires you to mash E, once you have taken the loot and go to leave, you have to pry it open again. The game doesn't remember that you just opened the window, which is really annoying. There's times I spent more time prying the window open to get in and out of a room than I actually spent in a room itself. This is poor game design, and they should have never left it like this for release. There's also a lot of bugs right now, especially with the AI. They sometimes get the urge to do weird things.
I need to sleep.
Yeah. While this is a problem, it's something that is very patchable, so hopefully they do fix these kind of bugs down the road. I'd really like to see these problems ironed out. At this point, I have to give Thief a point under play for the gameplay. The core gameplay is absolutely solid, and fans of the series that were looking for that ultra-hard sneaking experience will love it. You have a ton of customizable options to make the game as hard as you want it to be, so there's no reason to pass this over. However, I'm also going to give the game a point under Don't Play for the quarter-esque city, the constant loading screens you have to go through, and the glitches with the AI. If you're looking for an open-world experience, then this is not the game for you. Also, for fans of Thief 3 that remember the Asylum from back then, you'll be happy or unhappy to know that there's also an Asylum in this game, and it's equally as creepy and freaky as times as the one from Thief 3 was. This one genuinely freaked me out at times, and there were some legitimate scares where I jumped out of my seat. So if you were looking for that creepy, scary experience, then it's there. And Godspeed to you if you go through this game.
Fog coming tonight. A chill coming tonight.
And now the sound. Oh boy, the sound. First of all, I'll just get this out of the way. I think the ambient noises and the music direction is overall done well. For the most part, the voiceovers are done well too, although there are some corny and badly done ones at times. In fact, the music in this game is a bit different than one might expect, and they didn't necessarily go for a traditional soundtrack. It has a lot of discordant sounds meant to build tension, and it definitely achieves that. In moments when you're about to be discovered, or when you're running for your life from guardsmen as they track you through the city, the music is spot on. The problem, however, comes from the actual implementation of the sounds. I'll say this straight up. Whoever was in charge of this aspect of the game really dropped the ball. In a game like this, sound is absolutely vital, as you need to know what's happening around you. Guards are constantly talking over one another, and as you pass houses, people will just start shouting in your ear about some priceless portrait that's up for grabs somewhere. These parts are meant to portray Garrett overhearing conversations in houses as he passes by them, but instead of sounding muffled through walls, it sounds like they're right behind you screaming in your ear, "My word! I just can't believe how large that diamond was!" It doesn't help that the guards below you will be having a conversation at the same time, so they end up talking over one another.
Famine with the Baron's empty promises!
I'm glad I don't have a
What's
sister.
Northcrest
I get the feeling
giving
she
us,
wouldn't
eh?
last 2 seconds
An
without
age
going
of
all
industry?
doe-eyed over.
An age of
If you're looking for
progress
extra
at the
coin,
forefront.
I got some jobs you can help me with.
This happens everywhere and is a major issue. Not only do sounds overlap, but the distance the sounds have traveled to get to Garrett are all messed up too. I really do find this unfortunate because, as I said, the actual sound is overall done well. It's just not implemented well into the game. Many times Garrett, guards, or other NPCs will just get cut off in the middle of a sentence for no reason too. There was even a cutscene where Garrett was speaking about something and out of nowhere it just ends before he even finishes what he's saying. Again, just really poor design there. These things can, and hopefully will be, patched, but it's going to take a lot of work to fix the huge mess of sounds they've made. Overall, I have to give a game a point under don't play for the sounds right now. If they fix these in a later patch, then this will be reverted to a play. But as things stand, and the game where getting the sounds implemented correctly is so important, I just cannot recommend you play it based on that aspect right now. In conclusion, at its core, this is through and through a modernized Thief game. They've updated the systems and gameplay a bit, and fans of the original can easily have dozens of hours of fun in this game. Priced at $49.99 USD on Steam, you'll easily get 20 to 30 hours of gameplay out of this, even in lower difficulties if you search every nook and cranny for loot and do all of the side quests. After you beat the game, they give you free reign of the city and the ability to finish any remaining side quests, so there's a lot of replayability here, even if you don't start a new game. Considering the lower than average price, and despite its flaws, I feel that fans of the old and new should pick this up. If the problems I outlined above are too much for you, though, then wait a while to see how they do with the patches, and buy the game once it goes on sale. As always, thanks for watching. My name is Strike It, and I'll see you guys next time.